Hi everybody, welcome to Best of British Blackwell. Thank you for tuning in again. Thank you for all the lovely comments and likes for my beef Wellington video, very much appreciated. I'm glad you all enjoyed it. Today I'm going to be doing another viewer request. This one comes from my father-in-law, who's been asking me to make pie mash and liquor for quite a while. So that's a very old-fashioned British dish. More of a Londoner's dish, I think, than anything else. There's lots of pie mash shops still around in London. Very simple to make, very simple food, very basic, but really, really tasty. I'm going to be showing you the two key elements today, which is going to be the pie and the liquor, which is a parsley sauce. So come over, take a look at the ingredients and we'll make a start. Okay, so here are our ingredients. I'll talk you through them one by one. Firstly, we've got some lovely beef mince here. This is 10% fat beef mince. It's quite important to get fairly fatty beef mince because it's going to add to the juices of the pie. There's not many other juices going into this pie. So if you get the lean beef mince, it's going to reduce down quite quickly and become quite dry. So that's why we're using that. We've got some puff pastry. I've got 2 rolls of this. The key to making pie and mash shop style pies are 2 different types of pastry. I'm going to talk you through that a little bit later on. We've got some onions, finely chopped onions here. They're going to go into our pie filling mixture. We've got some beef stock here, and we've also got some fish stock here. I'll tell you why we use the fish stock. The liquor is made using juices from steamed or stewed eels. I'm not going to be making eels today, so I've just developed a small amount of fish stock to make our parsley sauce or liquor up with a little bit later on. Finally, I've got some suet, which I'm going to use to incorporate into the top of the pastries, and I've also got a little bit of corn flour. The first step is going to be to make the pie fillings, so we'll get cracking with that. First stage for making the pie filling is going to be to get our diced onions and fry them off gently in a pan with a little tad of oil in there. The onions are softening up really nicely now. Now it's time to get our beef mince in there. Slowly but surely with the spoon, just start to break this mince down. We're looking for a nice fine texture on the filling of this pie. Okay, we're about halfway through browning off this beef mince now, and hopefully what you can see is that a lot of the moisture from this meat is starting to be released now and is bubbling away. That's good. We're trying to get rid of the moisture but retain the flavour that meat holds. So what we'll do now is we'll get some seasoning into this pan. Plenty of black pepper. Plenty of salt. And we'll continue to cook this out and cook out the water and the juices that are coming out of this meat. The meat is browned off really nicely now, so what we're going to do is we're going to turn the cooker down a little bit, turn the heat down a tad, and then we're going to add to this the beef stock. Get it all in there, and now what we do is we let this simmer for a while. Okay, so once this starts to simmer away, what I tend to do is put a lid on top, just retains some of the flavours in there. Turn this right down, and then I just let this slowly cook away now for a good couple of hours. So the texture of the pie filling is going to improve the longer you cook this meat. That's it really. As you can see, very, very simple ingredients in here. Pie and mash dates back, a good 150 years. It's basically a poor man's food, so there wouldn't be that much in terms of ingredients. You're looking at meat, potatoes and onions really, and that's about it. Now this is cooking away. We'll move on to the next stage, which is to prepare our pastry. Okay, so our beef pie filling now has been cooking away and it's thickened up really nicely. Now it's time to start concentrating on the pastry. As I've said before, the pastry for a decent pie mash and liquor style pie is made from two different types of pastry. The bottom is made from a standard pastry and the top is made from a suet pastry. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit because I'm using the shop bought pastry here, but I'm going to use this to create the two different types of pastry. So we use a standard puff pastry sheet at the bottom of the pie, and I'm now going to show you how to turn puff pastry into a suet pastry the cheats way. What you do is you take your food blender, get around about 50 grams worth of suet in there, put your lid on and blitz it up. What you need to do is add a little bit of flour in there as well. So I'm going to be adding a tiny little bit of corn flour into this mix. Give it another beat. Now, as you can see, that's going to come out into like a paste, and that's exactly what you want because we're going to roll this in between the sheets of the puff pastry. Next stage of the process for the pastry is to get yourself some flour, spread it onto your work surface. Now let's get one of these pastry rolls out. I've bought two just in case. I'm going to use enough pastry here to make 4 pies. It's been out of the fridge for a little while. It really doesn't matter whether it sticks to the paper or not. Hopefully it won't. That looks about good. What we're going to do is we're going to divide this in half straight away. So nice sharp knife, straight down the middle. And we can take this piece of pastry to one side and leave it. We're not going to use that just yet. This part of the pastry can go onto our working area. What we're going to do is stick it together like that. Do you know what? I'm going to use both of these because I don't think I've got quite enough pastry for the size of my tin. So we get our pastry on here. Now this is the suet pastry that we're going to be working on there. So grab my rolling pin, grab the suet that I prepared earlier, and then slowly but surely we're going to scoop this out of the food processor and into this pastry. We're not going to do it all in one go. We're going to do it slowly but surely. And then what we do is we fold it inside, and roll it out. Giving it a turn and rolling it out. This doesn't need to be neat, it doesn't need to be tidy. You're gonna shape and form this around a pie dish, so that's gonna help you. But again, just roll it out. And then get some more of the suet, paste that inside, get as much of it out as you can, another bit out in there, and then just fold it on top, fold it in, and roll it out. And what you're doing is by rolling it out several times, folding the suet into this pastry, slowly but surely you're just incorporating it in between the layers of butter and pastry that puff pastry is made up of. And as you can see, it gets a little bit sticky because the suet is it's in the consistency of a paste. So you need to make sure you've got plenty of flour when you're doing this. So roll it out, fold it over, and then just keep adding to the layers. It's kind of like making puff pastry from scratch. But all you're doing is just adding another layer and another texture to it. Now we're going to move on to the stage where we start to get the bottom layer of pastry into these pastry tins. And I've got some very old-fashioned style pie tins here. They're about a decent pie mash size portion actually. Just before we get the pastry in there, what we do, get a little bit of kitchen paper and butter the bottom of these dishes. Now in terms of filling the bottoms of these, I'm going to do this very simply. I'm just going to flour a rolling pin, and then as this puff pastry comes, I'm literally just going to roll it out a little bit, just a tad, and then I'm going to cut it straight down the middle this way, straight down the middle this way. And then I'm just going to take it and lift it straight into the pie dish. Flour side down. Okay, there you can see we've managed to get our puff pastry into the bottom of these pastry tins. You can see that I've rolled it out a little bit and just made sure that it covers the complete outside of the pastry dish. And now we're looking to get our pie mix in there. Now look at that. That corn flour's thickened that up beautifully. Remember, all we've got in here really is some mince, some beef stock and some onion. And then I've thickened the gravy up with some corn flour. Nothing more than that. Bit of salt and pepper in there. So what you need to do now is just spoon this mixture into the pies. And just fill these all up. Fill them up as high as you like. Okay, so now we take our puff pastry with our suet in it. We roll it out into a ball, and then we're going to roll it into an oval shape so that we'll cover one of our dishes. That's about right. And then to cover it, here's an old-fashioned trick for you. You would imagine that you would use some sort of egg white on these, but you don't, or egg wash. You don't. The way they do it in the pie mash shops is some water. So you spray the top of the pie with the water and get that suet top straight in there. Pass it over to one side, start on the next one. A little bit more flour into a ball and we'll roll it out into that oval shape that we've just seen there. Now, very good reason for the water. Stops the inside of the pie drying out. It helps to create some steam inside that pie as well. And also, you have to remember, again, this is quite a poor man's dish, so there wouldn't have been a lot of spare ingredients to go around, certainly not eggs to egg wash these. So again, spray it with some water, straight over the top. Once you've done all of those, we trim the excess off and we get them ready to go in the oven. Okay, now the suet tops are on top, what we've got to do is secure them down. So get your thumbs in around the outside of these pie tins. Just make sure they're nice and crimped together, both sides of the pastry meeting, and then take a knife, just cut around the outside of the pie, cut the excess off. And then what you're left with is a beautifully trim, old-fashioned style London pie. Our pies are just about ready to go into the oven. As you can see, I've trimmed off all the excess pastry. What I'm going to do is, I don't actually know whether an old-fashioned pie mash shop would egg wash their pies. I think they probably just brush them with some milk. But I've got some egg yolk here, which I'm going to brush these pies over with. And then the final step is going to be to get some boiling water added to the bottom of this pan that the pies are sitting in, and that should create some steam as well, so it should also help to steam the bottom of these pies out. You should probably know that suet pastry always works quite well with a little bit of moisture in the air inside that oven, so that won't do it any harm whatsoever. So here we go, final little bit of egg yolk over the top. There's one whole egg yolk in here which is perfectly covered 4 pies. So no need for any silly patterns on here. Let's just throw this to one side. Grab our kettle. Like I said, just some boiling water. I would say covering about a centimetre of the bottom of this pan. Now what we do is we stick these in the oven for about 20-25 minutes on 160 degrees. While the pies are in the oven, we're going to make my favourite part of this dish, possibly even the part that some people dislike about this dish, but this is going to be the parsley sauce or the liquor. So what I've got here is some flat leaf parsley, which I'm going to finely chop. No messing around with this, just make sure you get it chopped as fine as you can. There we go. About as fine as I'm going to go. As you can see, it's really, really finely chopped, but then there's also some larger leaves in there as well, which are going to really give it a lovely consistency. What we do with this basically, take it Stick it into a saucepan, as much of there as you can, and then you remember the fish stock that I told you about earlier. Now, what would usually happen is in a pie mash shop, you would be able to get pie mash, liquor, and eels, steamed eels or stewed eels. What they would do is they'd take the stewing juices from the eels and make the liquor using that. I haven't made eels today, so I've just made a very light fish stock. Get that water in there, now get that onto a low heat. As you can see, we've got our potatoes boiling away there. We're going to make some lovely mashed potatoes with those. Into this liquor, get a decent amount of salt, equal amount of pepper, and just let this warm through. Give it an occasional turn with your spoon and just let that sauce warm through. Okay, so to complete this liquor, all we've done is we've added some water and corn flour using exactly the same method as I showed you before. So I added a little bit more hot water into there, just plain hot water. We've already got the seasoning and the parsley in there and the fish stock, and then what I did is I got a couple of spoonfuls of corn flour, a little bit of water, shook it up and threw it in there as well. Now that is the consistency that we're looking for. It's the colour of a fairly light pea soup. You've still got some textures of parsley in there, but essentially it's a white parsley sauce. That's all that liquor is. It doesn't look particularly appetising, but trust me, when you mix it with beautiful fluffy mash and a nice beef and onion beef and onion pie, it's absolutely perfect. So now we're going to take that off the heat. We're just going to keep it warm and we're going to get ready for our pies to come out. Okay, so our pies have been in for about 25 minutes now. It's time for them to come out. Now look at those. They look absolutely beautiful. The only thing I really want to do with those now is let them stand for a little while. So, you know, they look good enough to eat immediately, I agree with you. But actually, I think they might benefit from just a little while standing there, cooling down. But look, you've got a lovely golden top on them, nice suet top, lovely flaky pastry bottom. What we're going to do is prepare our mash now, get our liquor ready and serve this up. Okay, so we've served up our mash. Our pies have been sitting for about 10 minutes now. What I'm probably not going to be able to replicate is the ease with which the old girls working in the pie and mash shop would be able to get these pies out of these tins. It seems to me that they took milliseconds to do it. I'm probably not going to be able to do it as well as these guys. Basically, they used to just rock up, tip them out. They probably had asbestos hands, but there you go. That's probably as good as I can manage, to be honest with you. They're probably still a little bit too hot, but it gives you an example of just what's inside that pie. There we go. Look at that. Absolutely filled to the brim. This is just bringing back memories of not just going to the pie and mash shop when I was a kid, but the whole experience of queuing outside. You would literally need to queue around the corner to get these from Harrington's in Tooting, which is my local pie and mash shop. And then finally, the finishing touch, as always, was the liquor. And basically, you just pour that straight over the top. Look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. That is exactly the type of finish that I was looking for on that liquor. It's green, it's not too green, but it's got some lovely flecks of parsley sauce running through there. And what you do is you finish it off with a bit of vinegar, normally chili vinegar in the pie mash shops, and some lovely fine black pepper. Let me get my spoon and my fork. You've got the lovely, lovely crispy top there, and then underneath that you've got beautiful soft pastry in there, which is the puff pastry, very soft. You've got the lovely meat filling and a lovely bit of mash. It's probably going to burn my mouth out now, but here we go. There we go. Old-fashioned London pie and mash with liquor. Rob, I hope you enjoy, and I hope you all give it a go. Thank you.